Compassion, a term often used but not always deeply understood, lies at the heart of all major religious and philosophical systems, especially Buddhism. In a world marked by daily strife and interpersonal conflict, the ideal of compassion remains one of the greatest gifts we can offer. Yet the manner in which compassion is cultivated, experienced, and expressed varies significantly across traditions. In Zen Buddhism, compassion is not merely a philosophical concept or an emotion. It is a practice, a way of being in the world. Zen calls us to move beyond the conceptual understanding of compassion and enter a realm where it is lived moment to moment, woven into the fabric of our daily existence. Zen Buddhism's approach to compassion is particularly unique. While other Buddhist schools also emphasize compassion, known as karuna, Zen's focus on direct experience, meditation, and living fully in the present moment offers a distinctive view on what it means to care for others, ourselves, and the world. Furthermore, Zen challenges us to examine the nature of reality itself, asking whether what we see is illusion or ultimate truth. In this essay, we will explore the Zen view of compassion, how it differs from other Buddhist schools, and how Zen practice cultivates compassion in everyday life. We will also dive into Zen's profound inquiry into the nature of reality and its implications for compassion. Before we continue, I'd like to welcome you to the Unfolding Journey channel. Whether you're a long-time practitioner or new to the exploration of Zen, we're here to unfold the mysteries of life, the mind, and the heart. In this space, we dive into profound topics like compassion, the nature of reality, and the teachings of Zen Buddhism. If you're seeking insight, deep reflection, and practical wisdom for everyday life, this is the right place for you. Don't forget to subscribe, and together, let's walk this path of discovery. At the heart of Zen Buddhism is the practice of zazen, seated meditation. Through stillness, Zen practitioners cultivate awareness, presence, and ultimately, a deep sense of connection with all beings. Zen's unique approach to compassion emphasizes that the cultivation of compassionate action begins with the mind. However, unlike other Buddhist schools that may emphasize doctrinal teachings or gradual methods, Zen tends to focus on direct experience, bypassing conceptual understanding to access deeper truths. Compassion as non-duality. One of the defining features of Zen's view of compassion is the emphasis on non-duality, the idea that distinctions between self and other, subject and object, do not truly exist. In Zen, this is often encapsulated in the phrase, no self, no other. The belief that we are separate from one another creates the illusion of boundaries. When we view others as distinct from ourselves, compassion becomes something we either give or withhold, based on our feelings, judgments, or perceptions of another's worth. However, from a Zen perspective, true compassion emerges when we experience ourselves as deeply interconnected with all beings, recognizing that the pain and suffering of others is not separate from our own. This non-dual perspective on compassion differentiates Zen from other Buddhist schools that may view compassion as something to be actively cultivated or developed over time. While other traditions emphasize Bodhisattva, the altruistic wish to attain Buddhahood for the benefit of others, in Zen, compassion is not a goal to be achieved, but an awareness to be realized. It's not about doing something for others. Rather, it is about awakening to the truth that there is no other to do for in the first place. In this realization, compassion naturally unfolds, as it is simply the recognition of shared suffering and the impulse to alleviate it. Compassion in action, the Bodhisattva ideal. Despite Zen's emphasis on direct experience, it does not ignore the traditional Buddhist Bodhisattva ideal, which calls for the aspiration to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. However, Zen's approach to the Bodhisattva path is markedly different. In Zen, the Bodhisattva is not a figure to be revered from a distance, but a living example of the practice of compassion in every moment. This approach is based on the notion that enlightenment is not an abstract state, but something to be realized in every action, every interaction. In everyday life, Zen practitioners embody the Bodhisattva's compassion through their actions, whether it be performing menial tasks, tending to others, or responding to difficulties. There is no hierarchy in Zen. Each action, whether grand or humble, is seen as an opportunity for the practice of compassion. When Zen practitioners sweep the temple floor, it is not merely a chore, but an act of mindfulness and compassion toward all beings. When they serve tea, it is an expression of kindness, not just to the other person, but to the moment itself, recognizing that this moment is all there truly is. Thus, in Zen, compassion is inseparable from the fabric of life. It's not about accumulating merit or seeking approval. It's about embodying the understanding that the welfare of others is inseparable from our own. In this way, Zen's compassion is both profound and simple. It arises from the direct experience of interdependence and is expressed in the most mundane of activities. While Zen's emphasis on direct experience and non-duality offers a unique take on compassion, other Buddhist schools also have valuable insights. For example, in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, compassion is central to the path and is cultivated through practices such as Tonglen, sending and receiving, where one meditates on taking the suffering of others and sending them relief. Tibetan Buddhism often emphasizes the intellectual and emotional cultivation of compassion, as well as the development of loving-kindness, metta, which can be extended towards both friends and enemies alike. In contrast, Theravada Buddhism, with its focus on personal liberation, nirvana, may stress the cultivation of karuna in more individualistic terms, teaching that the compassionate path leads to the liberation of oneself and others. The Theravada approach emphasizes understanding the nature of suffering, dukkha, and practicing virtue and meditation as tools to alleviate that suffering. Zen, however, does not separate the compassionate path from the liberation path. Compassion in Zen is not something to be cultivated in isolation. It is inherently tied to the realization of the true nature of the self and the world. The distinction here is subtle but profound. In other schools, compassion may be seen as a means to an end, while in Zen, it is the very expression of the end itself, the realization of no self, no other, and the oneness of all things. Zen does not rely on an intellectual understanding of suffering, but emphasizes the need to experience it directly. Compassion arises not through cultivating the ideal of a Bodhisattva, but through the lived experience of mindfulness and presence. As a Zen master might say, when you are sick, be sick. When you are well, be well. Compassion in this sense is not something one must force or strive for, but something that naturally arises when we are fully present with the moment. In Zen, the question of reality is not merely theoretical. It is intimately tied to the practice of compassion. Zen teaches that the ordinary world, the world we see and interact with, is not the ultimate truth. Rather, it is an illusion, a projection of the mind, which creates the illusion of separate selves and separate objects. This illusion of duality is what gives rise to suffering, as it fosters attachment, desire, and aversion. The Zen practice of meditation, particularly koan practice, the use of paradoxical questions or statements that challenge the conceptual mind, is designed to help practitioners transcend the dualistic view of reality. Through this process, Zen reveals that what we think is real is often a construct of the mind, and the true nature of reality is far beyond what we can see or grasp. Zen's radical approach to the nature of reality invites practitioners to experience directly the truth of the present moment, free from mental projections and dualistic thinking. In the context of compassion, this inquiry into reality is deeply significant. If reality is an illusion, then the boundaries we perceive between ourselves and others are also illusions. Thus, true compassion arises not from the recognition of the suffering of others as distinct from our own, but from the realization that we are all interconnected in a vast web of interdependent existence. The realization of this interconnectedness dissolves the boundaries that create suffering, allowing compassion to arise naturally and effortlessly. Zen's view of reality is that there is no inherent self and no inherent other. What appears as separate is merely an appearance. When we look deeply into the nature of reality, we see that there is no self to be harmed or to be compassionate toward. Rather, compassion emerges as a spontaneous expression of our true nature, which is not separate from others. Zen's view of compassion is profound because it invites us to see through the illusions of separation and recognize our deep interconnection with all beings. Zen does not present compassion as a goal to be achieved, nor does it suggest that we must strive to be compassionate in the conventional sense. Instead, compassion is something that naturally arises from our awakening to the true nature of reality, where self and other dissolve into one. As we continue our journey along the Zen path, we are reminded that compassion is not just a mental attitude or a charitable act, but the very fabric of existence. Through our practice of mindfulness, meditation, and direct experience, we begin to live in harmony with others, recognizing that in each moment, compassion is not something we have to do, but something we simply allow to emerge. It is when we stop clinging to the notion of separation and embrace the interconnectedness of all beings that compassion flows effortlessly, without effort or pretense. Zen teaches us that every action, whether mundane or profound, can be an act of compassion if approached with mindfulness and presence. Whether we are washing dishes, listening to a friend, or simply walking in nature, each moment presents an opportunity to embody compassion in its purest form. This is why Zen's approach to compassion is not about seeking external recognition or accumulating merit, but about being fully present in the moment and responding to the needs of others with an open heart and a clear mind. The Zen practice of Zazen, sitting in meditation, is the heart of this process. Through deep meditation, we begin to see past the veil of our ego, where the boundaries between self and other dissolve. It is in this space of stillness that we come to realize that the suffering of others is not separate from our own. The recognition of this truth leads to a deep, compassionate response to the world, not based on obligation or morality, but from the very nature of our being. Zen's view of the nature of reality, which challenges the conventional understanding of the world as separate and solid, directly informs its understanding of compassion. When we see the world as an interconnected whole, where all beings are part of the same dynamic web of existence, compassion naturally arises. It is not something that needs to be forced or even cultivated through effort. It is simply a natural expression of our awakening to the true nature of reality. Thus, Zen offers us a unique and profound perspective on compassion, one that is deeply rooted in the practice of mindfulness, meditation, and direct experience. It invites us to move beyond conceptual understanding and enter into a deeper, experiential relationship with ourselves, others, and the world. By embracing this practice, we can transform our daily lives into a series of compassionate acts, bringing the wisdom of Zen into every moment, no matter how ordinary or extraordinary it may seem. As you embark on this unfolding journey of discovery, I invite you to reflect on how compassion manifests in your own life. How can you bring more presence, kindness, and understanding into your everyday interactions? What practices can you cultivate to deepen your connection to others, and in turn, to your own true nature? If you've enjoyed this exploration of Zen and compassion, and you want to dive deeper into these teachings, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join us here at the Unfolding Journey channel. Every week, we bring new insights, practical wisdom, and spiritual reflections to help you navigate the path of self-awareness, compassion, and inner peace. Subscribe now and continue unfolding the layers of your own journey toward a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. In closing, Zen reminds us that compassion is not a lofty ideal to be attained, but a fundamental aspect of our true nature. It is in the quiet stillness of the present moment, free from the distractions of ego and illusion, that we come to realize the interconnectedness of all life. When we embrace this truth, compassion becomes not just a practice, but a natural, unspoken expression of our being. And as we deepen our practice, the unfolding path of compassion reveals itself, moment by moment, bringing us closer to the realization of our shared humanity and the oneness of all things.